All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The Samurai Brothers are back for episode 43 of the Samurai Brothers podcast. Matthew, how are things going with you over there?
Things are going pretty good.
Yeah, it's been quite warm lately, and obviously you had your time in Vegas a few weeks back, and then last week I was with mom and dad in Vegas, and we went to see Weird Al Yankovic. So it was a very fun show
Yep.
and finally nice to see him in person. So,
Yep. Good old Weird Al, always
yep,
entertaining.
yep, always entertaining. So, anyway, we have quite a episode today. So we did have the new chapter of One Piece, 1152, come out, and this is a loaded chapter. So I think we're gonna have quite a bit of discussion. And then we have a MMA legend who has decided to announce his retirement. So we're going to be getting into that discussion once we finish up with One Piece. So Matthew, let's get right into the into One Piece then, shall we? So where we left off was that Luffy and company. Obviously, they found Scopper Gabon, aka Mr. Ya, and now they have found out that there is trouble a brewing up in the upper world of Elbaf. So looking like things aren't looking too good up there. The last time we saw, right?
Yeah, no, the Dorian Brogy had been converted into demon giants. Um, Scopper Gabon had been sent into the underworld. Chopper ran after him. All the other Straw Hats were
They're incapacitated.
yes, incapacitated is a good way of putting it.
Yeah. But it's the first time now that everyone
Oh,
who's in the
oh yeah,
underworld.
oh yeah, and what's his name? Uh, Emu has possessed Gunko and is using her as an avatar, and apparently has
All
most.
the powers.
Yeah, I refer to Emu as a him because most of the indications are it's probably a him.
Yeah.
We're proven wrong, then I won't age well. So
Yeah, I think I don't know if I had mentioned, I don't remember if I had mentioned this last week, but there was like some page that had supposedly posted a spoiler of what Emu actually looks like. And thank goodness that wasn't the case. And I unsubscribed from that page because it was like there's a few pages out there, they'll post like these fake spoilers.
is it the one that says that it's Lily?
No, actually. No,
Yeah,
it like did a face reveal of Emu, and supposedly Emu was like a long neck or something like that. Yeah.
I think more of the indication is that Emu's a long-headed. If
Right. Yeah, because Emu is kind of at least the silhouette of Emu is built rather weird.
well, this then again, this is Echido Oda, but the what's it called
The theory.
yeah, well, no, I was gonna say was Emu's theoretically a world noble, regardless of all the world nobles seem to be normally proportioned, at least the ones that aren't fat inbred
Right.
ones. So the it's got to be the clothes that Emu is wearing
Mm-hmm.
that makes him look weird.
Yeah.
He probably is wearing this giant hat
Mm-hmm.
and this
Yeah, but the thing
regalia.
is that his eyes are all the way up towards the top of the hat in a way, but then the arms are like all the way like down towards the middle would be
Yeah,
the thing.
when I'm sure that Emu will be revealed, and when he
Oh
is, I'm
yeah,
sure it'll look interesting.
it probably will look interesting, but
At least it
nonetheless,
looks more interesting than when uh, Green Bull was revealed. The Green Bull was revealed. I was just like, this guy doesn't look impressive. The Smoker's initial reveal was a lot more impressive because Smoker looked like this menacing, and let's be honest, even if the post time skip has done Smoker kind of dirty, you know, the reality is had to go against stiffer competition, which is part of the reason why he's been getting his butt kicked, and he he did fine in East Blue where the competition level is kind of down.
Yeah. Kind of runs on that sense of, there was like some comment I saw from somebody on a social media post talk about how a majority of the vice admirals in the Marines are useless. It's like you see a lot of vice admirals, and a lot of them tend to get bodied too. You know,
it's one of those things. Well, like I'll throw another example. In like franchises, in Godzilla, if you look at like the on-screen record of Ghidorah, he gets whooped more often than he doesn't. But that's just one of those things where it's not that these things aren't glass cannons. It's that they're off screen. They're meant to be these impressive beasts, but they're meant to be whooped on screen by the protagonist. So on screen, regardless, it's like you see these things getting whooped. Like I'll throw another one in there. Yaman John Wick.
Yeah.
He gets beat by John Wick, and that's the only fight that we see of him. But he's supposed to be meant to be this, essentially sumo assassin. So it's one of those things where, they're meant to be. It's unfortunately what we see on screen is not the overall picture of the menacing, character that they're meant to be. And that just happens in One Piece, where the vice admirals are meant to be these, impressive, and antagonists most of the time. I don't think you can call Garp an antagonist.
No, Garp is he's in a situation all his own,
Yeah, Garp I would say is a 3.5 star admiral, because he was offered multiple times to be a 4-star admiral. He didn't take it because he didn't want to have to answer to the world.
Yeah, he'd have to answer directly to the world noble.
Yeah, and he didn't want to do that. So it is funny though, because it's like in that way, that sense of freedom that Luffy wants, it was kind of passed on to him by Garp. This sense of freedom, it's like the revolutionaries,
right?
Dragon wants freedom for everybody, so it's like there is this sense of freedom in that family, that the monkey D family line. It's just that the generations have kind of expressed it in different ways. Garp was a Marine who wanted to be able to do his own thing in whooping pirate butt within the Marine system. Dragon wanted to create freedom for everybody else, and Luffy wants to be the most free and to, create that freedom for people in a different way. So,
which kind of, something that I'm just thinking about, how, of course, we don't know how specifically Garp is known within the Marine ranks, but obviously him being Monkey D Garp, I'm almost wondering though that maybe, because obviously the D's are a danger to the world nobles, but I'm wondering.
Yeah, but only the world nobles know that. The Marines don't know that, because not even the indications, not even Garp knows the
meaning.
Will of
but
D.
I'm wondering also,
most D's do not know the true will of D. That knowledge has just been lost throughout the family history. The only one D that we know of that actually reattained that knowledge was Goldie Roger.
I'm kind of wondering in a way that Garp has unintentionally protected himself is by not accepting, the admiral position, because obviously the world nobles don't care about the common folk, who they consider to be just trash.
They don't. The only rules they follow amongst each other is don't hurt each other. You do, you end up like Don Quixote most guard.
Yep.
Only rule that they follow. No, that's there's no other rules that they follow.
Well, anyway, so let's get into this. So they have found Mr. Ya, and looks like everyone's getting ready to go back into the upper world.
Oh, and he does confirm that he can detect that Zoro has Conqueror's Haki, and Zoro, of course, did not know that, and so Luffy's like, oh, so, something that I'm gonna, something I thought of. Some fan theories were that they're basically playing a game of Gomoku where anything in between two demons like Dory and Brogy, those giants were being converted into other demon giants. But one thing I'm thinking is, even though Zoro is the king of hell, I'm wondering if maybe that Haki connection might flip the board.
Could. And the other thing that's interesting here, because obviously Scopper tells Zoro that he can use Conqueror's Haki, but and then in the one scene where he's like, wait, I can use it, and it looks like Luffy knows that feels that he can use it too, because it says it's flowing out of you. So that means Luffy knows that Zoro can use Conqueror's Haki as well.
Yeah, though there is the indication that Sanji doesn't have it, but the reality is Sanji doesn't need it in order to be the left hand of the Pirate King. He just needs to be the best man possible.
Yeah. I think it'd be kind of interesting if we can get a third member of the crew.
Well, you know what it is. It's possible that his if he does have it, it probably isn't awakened yet.
Yeah,
it might be one of those things where it might awaken, because it's like certain battle stress situations seems to be what unlocks Conqueror's Haki.
Yeah.
So it's possible that he might just be. It's as intense as all the battles he's been in so far. It's possible that it might not unlock until he's up against the final battle, where he's up against someone that, in order for Luffy to succeed, he needs to unlock it.
Yeah. Now here's another thing that we have going on. Obviously, Loki he's saying that he wants to fight for Elbaf. He's asking Hyldin to take off the cuffs so that he can go with everyone up into the upper world. Obviously, Hyldin's accusing Loki of having betrayed Elbaf once, joining the side of the government.
And then also the fact that let's also mention that Luffy asked Loki to.
Now this is the one out of left field. It's like, Loki, join my crew.
And he's like, why would I join a pipsqueak like you? Like, I think almost a literal translation verbatim.
Well, honestly, that is the how Oda, with all the people where they throw fan theories out and stuff like that, I did not see this coming at all. Absolutely not. I did not see this coming at all.
Yeah, but let's be honest. This is one of those situations where it probably cannot happen. Anyone else can fit on a ship, whether it was the Going Merry or the Thousand Sunny. Anybody else can fit. He cannot fit. So it's not going to happen.
Not unless something else happens.
Yeah, he might join the Grand Fleet. He might lead Elbaf into the final war. So he might fight with Luffy, but he is not going to be a direct subordinate.
Right. I mean, because stranger things have happened.
Because let's also remember that the way that the Straw Hat Grand Fleet is structured, they all committed to him. He did not commit to them, and he does not, unless one situation, which will probably be the final war, happens where he, calls it, uses his, what's it called card Vivia card to call them, he's not going to call them because he doesn't. It's that much command. He might have a force the size of a Yonko, and he is a Yonko, but he doesn't like the idea of having thousands of people directly.
But he's asking someone. When he asks someone, that is it takes a lot for Luffy to ask someone. And I think where are we at in terms of asking people to join? Because I really don't recall if he asked Yamato to join or not.
I don't think he did. Yama wanted to join, but
Yamato wanted to join.
It's not. Yeah, the way that it goes is he asked you. There's one person who asked to join and was granted, and that was Nico Robin, and she was a very unique situation.
But I think in the situations where, if you look at the ratio of when Luffy asks people to join versus them actually not joining,
it's probably 50%, maybe less, because I think he's asked more people than.
Well, like if you have like the ones that are intended as a joke, obviously that's like for example,
let's say 50%.
It would probably be interesting to look at the number. Like the obvious case was when Jinbei denied that request the first time, but he told him that he had things to take care of, and then when he returned, Luffy brought him back in. Obviously,
right. He joined eventually.
Right, he joined eventually.
But like for example, what's his? Well, not Momonosuke. Who?
Yamato?
No, not Yamato. Did he ever ask Carrot?
I don't think so. I didn't see. No. Like remember the.
I'm drawing a blank. Which retainer did he ask? Because at the time he was in half.
Oh, Kinemon?
Yeah, he asked Kinemon.
Yeah, that I would consider to be like a joke type of,
Yeah, but if you factor in the jokes as well, that still probably equals to about 50%.
Yeah, because there was Kinemon. I forget the guy that they met on the island with all the animals, and he was stuck in the treasure box.
Was he considered a joke, basically?
Well, I mean, he did ask him to join because it was, because there's been this kind of gag where Luffy he asks people to join that like he finds funny, also.
I forgot. Did he actually ask Konami to join?
I think. I don't recall if it came to that point where he wanted him to join. He wanted her to join, but obviously, with everything that happened, he then committed to having her join.
It felt more like theirs was like an initial alliance of convenience, and then So
but then when he found out what happened, then he was like, "Nami, you're gonna join my crew." After he defeated Arlong, so it was like that. Then and there is because I think he, with all the adventures that they had shared, and then it would have got to the point where she was ready to just go all out against Arlong, and when she was trying to cut herself up.
Did they ask Bon Clay? Did he ask Bon Clay?
I don't think
or were they just always allied?
They were allied. I don't recall that he asked Bon Clay to actually officially join the crew. Yeah. So that's why, in this situation, it's again, this doesn't happen often.
Yeah, this is a serious invite.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of times we've seen it's because these people, in certain situations, they don't have anywhere to go. And it's not because they're not fitting, but because it might be because their time is done. Like, for example, Nami, that was a big accomplishment that they did. It's they got rid of Arlong, and it's for her now it's time to go on to the next stage of her journey. Sanji. Sanji was staying there for the sake of repaying his debt to Zeph, but Luffy wanted to cook.
Yeah, but there was also that indication of, if you stick with me, you're not gonna fulfill you
right,
need
you're
to
not going to fulfill your
what
dream.
both of us dream of, which is to find the all blue. You stay here and help me, you're not gonna fulfill that.
Yeah, so a lot of this is like dream related, where people have goals in life, and the only way for them to fulfill those goals, is to go with Luffy.
Well, and then Usopp is another natural progression because he wanted to be stronger.
Right.
Chopper wanted to. Chopper
see the
could
world.
only accomplish so much. Kureha knew a lot, but she didn't know everything. He was only going to learn so much under her tutelage. So if he really wanted to be able to cure all diseases, he needed to leave Drum Island.
And then obviously Robin is the situation of, well, if she stays where she's at, she's going to get caught.
Frankie had to move on too if he really wanted to create and
he was a wanted criminal.
Yeah, and
by helping them.
Yeah, and then Brooke
didn't have anywhere to go.
And then he has a goal. He wants to reunite with Laboon, and he's only going to do that when he
sails around the world.
Yeah, and meets up with Laboon on the other side of Reverse Mountain.
Yeah,
on the other side of the Red Line.
And then in Jinbei's case, it's kind of this. Well, he can't really stay where he's at because he's a wanted criminal, and then he
couldn't stay aligned with the what's it called, with the Big Mom pirates,
right? And then I see him definitely as like a mentor to a lot of the other people.
Like, yeah, because let's be honest, Brooke and Frankie, even though they're older, they're immature.
Yeah,
and it's funny
Jinbei's like the voice of reason a lot of times.
Jinbei and Robin. Well, Jinbei, Robin, and Nami, they're all mostly
like
the voice
Frankie.
of reason.
Like I see Frankie as kind of this really he's a street savvy type guy in certain situations, because he had connections to the underworld in a way.
Yeah.
But so, and if theoretically Loki were to somehow join the crew, now how he would travel with them, we could think about that later if this actually becomes a reality. But the fact of the matter is, he's not wanted in Elbaf. Everyone hates his guts, obviously, because if we segue into the next part of this, Scopper tells Hildene that he should let Loki go because of all the,
because he knows the truth, and that's where we're going into flashback territory.
Right, we go into flashback territory because the way that Hildene says it is that he says Loki killed 113 soldiers, and he gave Jarul the Grievous rune, which is obviously the sword in his head, and then he says that he killed his own father. But what we're looking at here is that it just so happened that Scopper and Shanks, to Luffy's excitement or whatever, was there. So we're seeing this as and then Hildene, obviously he wants to know what specifically happened, and so that's why he's demanding the truth from his brother.
Oh, and then in this flashback, it's 13 years ago, so it's even before
14.
romance. It's before Romance Dawn. Mm-hmm. Luffy's probably alive, but he's like a toddler.
Well, let me see here. He was 17 at the start of the series, and then right now he's 19. So he's 5 at this point in the series.
Yeah, so he probably hasn't even met Shanks yet. He might, but
he may or may not have.
Yeah. So and Shanks has said that he's already been to Marijois in the flashback. That's something I kind of want to know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Obviously, so yeah, it's really weird because Loki and Jarul been summoned to the castle, and obviously they're kind of chit-chatting.
Oh, and then they established that Jarul is only like a few inches. it's probably hundreds of feet, but in terms of like normal proportions, he's probably only a few inches shorter than Loki.
Yeah, probably.
Now the question
maybe
is
a
that,
couple feet.
now the question is that because of age, or is that because of what's it called, of
Their DNA.
is Jarul closer to the ancient giants, similar to what Loki is, and is it possible that he shrunk because of age, and maybe when he was in his prime he was about Loki's height, maybe taller?
Yeah, because that kind of reminds of what was it? The orcs from Warhammer 40K, because they seem to get bigger as they age, or if they've fought and won more battles.
I'll take your
just
word
weird.
for the Warhammer 40K orcs, because the only orcs I know of are the Lord of the Ring orcs.
Yeah.
And
So Loki forces
their height depends on the species. The smaller ones are
yeah.
just normal run of the line orcs. The taller ones are what's it called? Urukai, which depending on if they were bred by Sauron or Saruman, depends on how they were bred. So,
well, Loki forces himself into the throne room, and then we see that it's kind of weird because Harald, his father, is being slain. And what's weird about this is this seems to be kind of a Julius Caesar type assassination going on here with all the stabbings, because it's literally he's being surrounded by all
his
these
guards.
all these other guards.
But he looks like the type of shadow that the what's it called, that Emu and the what's it called, Emu and the Gorose look like.
So what you're saying is it's possible he got possessed.
Yeah, it's possible he got possessed.
Converted.
Yeah, it got converted, and it probably takes a specific type of attack in order to kill that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that that Loki's going to be the only one who's going to be able to kill that. But then we get into another flashback further back.
Yeah, it's really weird. So obviously, Scopper and Shanks are here. Like you said, Shanks talked about going to Marijois, and he did want to join up with Buggy, which was interesting. But yeah, it's kind of like, and Shanks wanted to talk with Harold about something in the Holy Land, which interests, that's kind of like more implication as to what specifically is he referring to. We see the silhouette of Jarul being stabbed in the head, and then the treasure of Elbaf, the forbidden devil fruit.
Oh yeah, they are talking about that, but then they go back to talk about apparently the younger giant pirate. So we see younger Dorian Broggy, but then we see a 45-year-old, which in giant years is equivalent to 15-year-old Harold, who's a jerk. Yep, whereas the translation is a scumbag. Oh, one thing we forgot to mention is that Scopper said that the Holy Knights are not immortal.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes, you didn't. I did see that.
So they're yeah. So it's possible to actually kill them. It's just really difficult.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be an interesting way that this takes place, and obviously, so Loda, he can make a flashback within a flashback.
Yeah, but yeah, so Harold apparently took the throne at age 15, which if you know the history of monarchs who take over when they're teenagers, is not good. Well, I should say most of the time it's not good. Let's just put it.
Although, for them to be actual leaders and going out and doing like, battles and stuff like that, very, very rare in that case. Because obviously this is Harold conducting raids on.
I think he was doing I think he was just being a jerk at a diplomatic, supposed to be a diplomatic meeting.
Mm.
And that's what it seems to insinuate. But, there's another, it's, we talked before that, due to my schedule, we might, may or may not do an episode next week, but next week, there is, the next chapter comes out next week, so we'll be able to, figure it out from there.
More about that. Well, with that being said, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this turns out. What is the secret that Loki and Jarul hold? So we'll have to figure that out when the next chapter comes out. Hopefully, Oda will put that into perspective. So with that being said, Matthew, to kind of close out our episode, we have a retirement that was announced as of, I believe it was yesterday, and Dana White came out and said it himself. It looks like the one and only John Jones has announced that he will be retiring. There's this thing about his opponent now. I believe he was scheduled to fight him, but now he's officially the champion at the heavyweight class.
Yeah, Tom Aspinall has been promoted to the
champion.
The light heavyweight champion.
So I remember when I remember watching some of John Jones' fights. I went and saw, I think, one fight. I think he fought Chael Sonnen in one match.
He did.
And then
part of his record-setting light heavyweight winning streak.
Yeah, I think I remember watching a couple. I don't know if it was the Sonnen fight that when he was overpowering him and then the ref stopped on a TKO, that somehow Jones had broke his toe.
Yeah, he had a bad, he got it at a bad angle, and he broke his toe. And if the fight had gone to the end of the round, it would have been a TKO for Chael Sonnen.
Right. Like, just this weird,
because you can't let a fighter go out with the toe, because it wasn't just a broken toe. It was
off.
It was off. He had to get that thing stitched back on. So
and the funny thing was that no one noticed until the interview, I think.
Yeah.
Like, no one noticed, and then they played the replay of it and actually snapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, just crazy. But anyway, so, with him retiring, and obviously we've seen a lot of things go on, drug suspensions, I think a hit and run, but just, being able to dominate in the ring. So Matthew, to close out, give us your perspective on the one and only John Jones and the career.
I held off saying this for the longest time, and it's just because of how basically all of his out of ring stupidity. But looking back on it, moving, it's everything he accomplished, and then moving up, and then, holding the championship. He definitely was already the greatest light heavyweight champion of all time, but I'm also willing to say that he's probably also the great, regardless of the fact that his title reign, because Demetrius Johnson has the record for the most title defenses at 11. Anderson Silva had a longer overall title reign, but I'm going to say that it's, and then Khabib also, he went 25-0, whereas John Jones, while he did have 28 total wins, they're not consecutive because because he had a DQ loss. But overall, I think I am willing to say nowadays that with this retirement, he probably is the greatest light heavyweight. Like I said, he is the greatest light heavyweight fighter of all time. But I'm also willing to say that he probably could be also considered the greatest fighter of all time, because here's the thing. he didn't just go out and dominate his challengers. He dominated multiple former light heavyweight champions. Multiple light heavyweight champions, multiple champions of other promotions. He took on all. It's as controversial as like his eye poking and multiple other stuff. Oh, he also beat future champions too. So regardless of that, I think I am willing to say that he's the greatest fighter of all time, because you also have to consider the fact that he moved up in weight, and not only did he win his a heavyweight championship, he defended the heavyweight championship, not against Tom Aspinall, but he did defend it. So, and there's this old saying that you're not a true champion unless you defend your title at least once successfully. So, the reality is, with all, even with us not being able to see him mostly in his prime because of his stupid antics, and then getting busted for, I'm pretty sure that a lot of his fights, he was probably natural. I don't think he was juicing up the whole time. I really do think that, because here's the thing: you had Anderson Silva, who kind of, he tried to make a comeback, and then he was kind of a shell of who he used to be. George St. Pierre did come back
once,
but he also had multiple other losses on his record. But then maybe you could say that Khabib had a comparatively short title reign. He may have gone 25-0, but he didn't. Yeah. It wasn't as champion most of the time, and there were multiple times where he had multiple times off. Granted, so did John Jones, but I am willing to say that John Jones is probably the greatest fighter of all time, as controversial as he was outside the ring, and inside the ring in some situations. Because he set multiple records that probably aren't going to be broken. He's still the youngest light heavyweight, youngest champion in the UFC across the board at age 23.
Mm-hmm.
And he defended his championship multiple times. Obviously, not to the length that
Demetrius.
Yeah, not the length that Demetrius did. Not the length of time as Anderson Silva, but he broke multiple records, and he was just a freakish athlete, and which is why it was unfortunate that we took a lot of time
to see more.
A lot of time was taken off of his record because he is still stupid. He still acts like that. So,
well, with that being said, it's kind
of like how we didn't see as much of Conor McGregor as we could have, and we could have seen if he really was the greatest of all time. Conor McGregor isn't the greatest. It's John Jones.
Well, with that being said, thank you, Matthew, as always, for your insightfulness. And for everyone, I want to thank you for tuning in. And we will be seeing you next time.